Hey guys, I quick wanted to make a video talking about how to tape your rifles and how to take care of your rifles because that is 100% the key to making them last long. They shouldn't be breaking that much. It should be able to last at least 2 to 3 years of normal use if you tape it right. And so I just wanted to show you guys the best way to tape it to last a long time. So this is just me taping a brand new one. Of course, if you're just retaping yours, you're gonna wanna get all the tape off first. But this one is fresh out of the package, so we don't have to worry about that. There's a couple things you want to really make sure of when you're taking care of your rifles. You never wanna have tape on the entire thing. But the ones I've been cleaning up had tape on all of it, and it was awful to get off, and it made the whole rifle really, really sticky, and it makes it way heavier, and it's super unnecessary. And then you only ever want to use strapping tape and electrical tape for it. You shouldn't ever have duct tape or any other kind of tape, but you do have to have strapping tape on it. Some of them I undid didn't have any strapping tape on it, and that's gonna make them break if they don't have that. So at least this one came with a nice little diagram. This is where there should be tape on your rifle. And in these areas, it should be one layer of strapping tape with one layer of electrical tape on top of that strapping tape. So let's get started. Just have to unscrew the bolt because there's little screws and the swivels on the strap. So I'm gonna do that quick. Okay, so we're gonna start with, there's strapping tape under all the electrical tape. So I'm gonna start with the tip just because I like starting with it. And you'll see like on this new one, there's little pads on the butt and the nose. So if you're retaping your own rifle, make sure there's something there to pad it. I like using mouse pads and I cut them up and they're really cheap, and I just like how it looks on the end of it. But you can use what you want, but just make sure there's something there because that's gonna help it not break. So to start, especially if you're putting a new pad on this, you're gonna do an X over the tip here. Smooth it out. The biggest thing with the strapping tape is it's hard to get it to lay flat, so just do your best to get it smoothed out, but there are gonna be some bumps in it, and that's okay. And then you're gonna wrap it around, the strapping tape around it. You want it to be maybe 4 fingers wide. A lot of them I saw had a lot of tape on the tip. It doesn't need to be that long, 4 to 5 fingers, just a couple inches here. And I find it hard with the strapping tape to wrap it all the way around. So I do it kind of one loop at a time. And I start at the bottom so that the seam sort of is maybe on the bottom and I won't notice it. So that's why I use the scissors too, because the strapping tape is, I don't think it's possible to rip strapping tape. So, and you'd also want to, when you're doing these circles around here, you don't want the tape to overlap a ton because you need more tape and it'll make your gun heavier. So just have very little overlap and try to get it as straight as possible because it is very difficult to get it to curve with the strapping tape because there's no stretch to it at all. And just try to keep it as straight as you can. So I think I'm gonna do one more circle here. Get that laid as flat as you can, get out as many bubbles as you can. Now you can see that the tip is completely covered with strapping tape, and it's just like a hand's width there, nothing too crazy, and then right over the top of the padding. Again, you don't need a lot of tape, but you do want it to be covered. So I'm gonna start about 4 inches out, or 4 fingers out from the edge of the bolt, so just right here, no tape is gonna be here. So I'm gonna start about there, cover all of this completely until about a hand's width after the end of the bolt, so right here. That's all I'm gonna do for tape in the middle, and that part is gonna be covered. So it'll be same thing like the nose, just in the middle. So I'm gonna speed it up a little bit. And then when you get to this part where the bolt will be, you still wanna make sure it's as covered as you can get it so that you don't have anything breaking. But I'll show you what I do to help it lay down. So I do it so that there's still some on this part, on this top part. So let me make sure I've got this in here straight. Because I think this helps protect it better. Because where your gun is going to crack first is either going to be right in here or right in here, just because of how the physics of it work. So I like to really make sure I got this covered so you can see it sticking up there. I'm just gonna cut it on the sides here and on the top. It helps if your scissors are somewhat sharp. And then I'll just lay it down. That's my best tip for helping any of the strapping tape lay flat. If you get little bubbles in it on the edges, either push them to a side, to like one of the, either the top or bottom, so it's not a bunch of bubbles on the flat part, or see if you can slide your scissors in there and cut it, and then it'll lay flatter. And then on this part here, I suggest having your tape start then on this top part of the gun, because then the bolt will be able to cover it. And also don't push it all the way down until you've kind of got your piece in place. That way you'll know you've got it covering what you want it to and that it's not crooked. And then you can seal it down more. And try to push any bubbles up where it'll be under the bolt then, if you can. So when you get to the neck, it's going to be a lot harder to get to lay flat because it's curvy and the tape is very rigid. So as you can see here, I have this big old bubble here because you want to keep it as straight as possible. The tendency will be for it to curve, and you just got to keep it straight and let that bubble form. And then what I do, it's easier if you have kind of smaller scissors, is I make a little cut on it as much as I can. And then it's a little easier. It'll lay it down a little bit more flat, and you're kind of just going to have some bumps there. That's how it is, and I know for some people they really don't like that, and it's just kind of hard, but that's just how it is. If you can, it'll help if you can push any of those bubbles to the edges or to the part where the bolt will cover, and then you can more easily get it to lay flat. So I'll show you what I mean here. So, let's see. So again, you can also see it sticking up right on this side. I'll show you in a second how we're gonna do. So you're pulling it straight across so that it's not curving. And my tape is folding on me. I think this is absolutely the hardest part of it, and I don't really like this part. Okay, so we have this piece here that's not flat, and then right under here that's not flat. So here, I'm gonna make a little tiny cut there. And push that down, and that helped a lot right there. Here I can push it down. And then at the bottom here, I'm gonna do like I said the last time. I'm just going to slide the scissors in there, cut it a little bit, and then it'll lay a little more flat. Again, it's not gonna be perfect. You can see it's kind of wrinkly there on the bottom, but that's just how it's gonna be. And then again, you're just gonna go a little bit out from the end of the bolt there. So now we're gonna do the butt. So I already have one piece of tape on here because I forgot to hit record. So we're just gonna ignore that. It's gonna be just like the tip. You want it to be about 4 fingers width down from the pad. Not a whole lot more than that unless there's some problem you need to. Should be pretty minimal. So to tape on the pad, if it is a old one, it might take more than this to tape it on, but this is the way I like doing it. So I do 1 piece of tape down the middle, strapping tape, and then I don't lay it down yet. We're gonna wait to do that real quick because we're gonna take 2 more pieces of tape. I just think it lays better and protects it better if you do it like this. And again, we're not laying down the edges yet. And then I'm gonna do 1 more 3rd piece here on this side of it. So then you have 3 pieces that look like this. So just because I'm picky about it, I take a scissors and cut the end just so it is more of a, true rectangle we're working with. And I just like doing it that way better. And you can do this on the tip too, especially if you have a new one, or I mean an old one, where you have a new pad that's not staying on very well. Just basically do this but smaller on the tip. And so then you're gonna cut basically each side here. We're just gonna make cuts basically up to the pad, and this is gonna help it lay flatter. So I just do it on each corner of each end. Lay the sides down first because those don't have to curve at all, and those lay really nicely usually. And then I can lay each corner down without quite as much wrinkling. So then the pad is on there really smoothly and really well. Next, you're gonna do the rest of it just the same as you did the tip. Sorry for my dog barking in the background. And just do a couple strips going around. And again, I do each strip individually just because I have a harder time with the tape doing it continuously, but whatever works for you. I know I said like 4 fingers over, like past the padding, but it actually should go, you can sort of see here where there's the hole to screw in the strap. It should go just barely past that. And don't be afraid to cover up any of those holes because the screws will just poke right through and we will be able to deal with that later. So now this is the strapping tape on the butt, middle, and the tip. There's just 1 other piece we're gonna do, and it's literally only 1 piece, and it's gonna go in 1 circle right above where the other screw is. Sorry. So right where that hole is for that screw, we're gonna do 1 strip of tape, not any more than that. And let's see. So this is all the strapping tape we have. You should have no more than this, no less than this. You want all of the strips of tape to be touching. You don't want holes between each strip. They should overlap just slightly, but not a ton. So that's what we got for strapping tape. So then we're gonna go in with our white electrical tape, which is way easier to use than the strapping tape because it is stretchy and it bends and it's way quicker. Start on the tip, and I'm actually gonna do it the same way I did the strapping tape on the butt. So I'm gonna do 3 strips across the front and then cut all the corners so that it'll lay flat. I'll show you what I mean by that on the tip. And you can do this with the tip strapping tape too. I just didn't because the pad was already on there and new. I didn't feel like it needed that much tape on it. So we got the 3 strips here. And then I'm out of room, so I gotta cut it so it'll lay flat. But this will be a lot easier to get to lay flat anyways. I think I'm just gonna do that here. Push the sides down, kind of wrap it a little bit. I think that just looks the best and holds up the best, especially with the electrical tape since it's on the top layer here. If you just did the little cross, it wouldn't cover it because it's so much thinner than the strapping tape. Okay, and then you can literally just, I suggest starting on the bottom. And try to get it all the way up to cover it so you can't see any strapping tape. And then just wrap it around. And again, you're gonna get some bumps in there, but nothing too crazy, especially with this electrical tape. And again, it should overlap a little bit so there's not holes in it, but not as little as possible because you don't want to have to add more tape than you need. And I cut it. Now the tip is done. And we're gonna do that for all of the other places with strapping tape. The strapping tape should be completely covered up with electrical tape. Shouldn't really be able to see any of the strapping tape. Do this part, do the middle, do the butt, and the part with this where the swivel goes. So for the butt of the rifle, we're gonna do the electrical tape just like we did the strapping tape. But I like to have it look a little nicer, and if I can, I try to have the middle piece on top, because then I suggest you write your name on the middle of it in Sharpie, and then we know whose rifle is whose, and it makes it much easier to find our equipment. So that's what I'm gonna do real quick. Okay, so now we have electrical tape and strapping tape on the tip. It's really hard to see me. I don't know why I'm pink. This whole middle part and on the butt, and you should have your name on the butt. So then we're just gonna do a couple wraps around where the swivels go, because we're gonna do one more once we screw it in. So very little until it's in there. And again, don't be afraid to just tape right over where that hole is. If you want to, sometimes once I do the strapping tape, I mark it. I use one of the screws because they're sharp and make the hole in the strapping tape, and sometimes it's easier to find it than once you have that electrical tape on as well. The actual tape part is basically done. We can go ahead and get the bolt and the strap back on. Sometimes it's hard to find where those holes are, so again, just like I did with the strapping tape, I like to get the holes in the tape made first because I think it's easier, and then you can start screwing it in. Now that the bolt is in and it looks very nice, now we can go ahead and get the strap put in. I think this one's a little harder to find where the holes are sometimes. If you need to lift up the tape and just get that found, that's okay. I also do it by, if you have like another rifle, if you're doing someone else's and you have your own rifle, you can put it side by side to kind of compare and see. Like right now I cannot find this hole at all. So I'm just going to, I'm not gonna do that side, I'm gonna do this side because there's less tape. So when you're doing this, so I just have one side screwed on because I forgot to show you something else. I always think you should cover all your screws with tape, including these guys on the strap, because you don't want to end up cutting your hand on them at some point. So this will be the same with the one on the butt. You literally just, I start it like that, and you wrap it around just so that it covers it. Find the scissors. Just so that that screw is covered up and it's gonna be less sharp and it's gonna not untwist. And then I'll also take black electrical tape to blend in with the strap. And just go right around here. Bottom, not the screws on the bolt because you're not really gonna be touching those, but all of them along here, I suggest covering up with tape, specifically the tape color that matches it. So black on the strap, white on the rifle. So this is what your rifle should look like now that it's done. Like I said, there should not be any tape anywhere besides here, here, one strip here, and here. You don't want the whole thing covered in tape. It's impossible to get off. Only use strapping tape and electrical tape. But make sure that you have strapping tape on here, otherwise it's gonna break.